What is up, RPG nerds? Welcome back to the channel. I am Brighton Nelson from RPG Ranked, and if you enjoy RPGs or Octopath Traveler especially, please consider liking, subscribing, and ring that notification bell for future videos. Alright, let's get right into this with ranking the characters by story. None of them are D or F tier. Actually, I don't even know if any are C tier or anything. But anyway, let's just really talk about all these characters ranked by their stories. I was going to do chapters first, but then my phone just died and I put my ranking on my phone. But here, I'm just going to do the story first because ranking them by story is fun. Alright, let's get started. And I'm just going to go in the order of Octopath as always. And first we're going to start with Ochette, which I'm going to put in S tier. Her story is awesome. It's not anything crazy. It's not like some new inventive thing. There's a problem. You go get 3 people to help you solve it, and then there's an epic battle at the end. But honestly, I'm not complaining. Ochette's such a fun character. So, you go through the first chapter, it's all about... By the way, there's going to be spoilers in this if you could not tell. Just saying. But, first chapter, you're like, oh, Night of the Scarlet Moon, and that's kind of intriguing. You're like, what is this, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh. And then there's also the conflict between the beastlings and the humans, which is very fun. One of those type of things, weird racism and stuff. But of course, it's fun to see that dynamic. They're trying to share the island, who gets more land, whatever. And then also that big conflict of the Night of the Scarlet Moon. And that's cool. And then you have to get the 3 legendary beasts, right? And each of them are distinctly different. It's fun. You go to different places. Top of Icy Mountain, a island, and a volcano, kind of underground, lava chamber, whatever the heck you want to call it. And then after, at the end, you go save the island with 3 legendary beasts, and it's so fun. She has one of my favorite final chapters, because a lot of the other final chapters, it's just all the setup was in the 3rd chapter, all the, everything cool really happens in the 3rd chapter, and the 4th chapter is just go beat up somebody. But the 3rd chapter, the 3rd chapter of Ochette's story, the final chapter, really is that big climax. Whereas I feel like most of the other chapters climaxed at most other characters, not most of them, I guess, half of them climax at the very, before the last chapter happens, and that's kind of annoying. But here, it's a great final chapter. It has all that payoff. It's fun, and Ochette, yeah, just such a fun character to go around, get in these different environments, have a call-out, or whatever the other one's called. I didn't pick that one, which I kind of regret sometimes. But the owl... forget what it's called. Mahina. There we go. That's what it's called. But yeah, so you get these beasts. It's really fun. None of the chapters, there's never a dull moment in Ochette's story, and that's what really makes it an S tier for me. It's nothing too special, but really just it does such a good job of making that final battle. There's a lot of action going on, lots of battles. You get to beat up the partner that you didn't choose, which is fun and kind of sad. You get the 3 legendary beasts along for the ride. You get Master Juva. There's this epic battle. Then the humans join you, and they're like, oh, yes, we're not going to be stupid anymore. And then they help you out, and then everything is nice on the island. And it's just a great little fun story. It's nothing crazy, but it does a really good job of doing what it does. And again, one of my favorite final chapters. And it also sets up, the shadow, kind of. It's one of the couple stories that actually play into the final chapter. I guess all of them do in a sense, in some way. But hers is one of the bigger ones, because, yeah, we get some of these shadow creatures. And, yeah, Mahina or Kala, whichever one you didn't choose, is part of the final chapter a little bit. So, yeah, it's really fun. Ochette's story is just a fun thing. There weren't any lows for me, but there weren't any too big of highs that I would put in S+ tier. But honestly, one of my favorite final chapters. It really paid off that climax. Really paid off the build-up, not paid off the climax. And next is going to be Cassti's story, which I'm going to put in S+. Here's the thing. Her story goes in S+, mostly because her 3rd chapter is my favorite in the entire game by far. It's so good. Her other chapters are kind of fun, too. The first one, it sets up the character, and the first one is just okay, but once you get the 3rd chapter finished, you look back on the 1st chapter and you're like, oh, that's what they were doing. So, and it really does amnesia well. Very few things. Very few times have I actually been impressed by Amnesia. This is one of those cases. Lost Odyssey is another one of those cases. But when they do Amnesia right, it can be very interesting. And I think it was good here. Because, yes, she had amnesia, but it wasn't like too much like, what's a tree? What's a forest? What's a river? Like, there's some RPGs that literally do that, and that is the most annoying thing ever. It's more of like, she still knows a lot of stuff, but like, she's still knowledgeable, but she just doesn't know who she is really. And then hearing about the heirs apothecaries, you're like, are they actually evil? And then they're not, except for the one. And the second chapter is nice because on one side you get the guys that help you win in the fourth chapter, the guys who like save whatever that village is called, I can't remember, Timberain, I think. And then the other side you get introducing the villain, getting more development of Castti as a character. So both those sides are awesome. You get to see that she helps anyone in need, even if they're an enemy. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things there. And then the fourth chapter is nice. It's payoff for the third chapter. It's fun. It's epic, climactic, but not as good as the third chapter. Like I was saying for Ochette, like, this one is one of those ones where it climaxes in the third chapter. But the third chapter is just that good that I had to put an S+ tier. My favorite chapter in all of Octopath so far. Like, the heirs apothecaries coming and then that guy just being evil. Them trying to save the village. It's all crazy. Them splitting up, dying, like all this crazy stuff happening. And it's a whole flashback. You get to know what Cassie's actually about. That abandoned village that was in the demo that I had no idea what it was going to be for. It was used here. And just Cassie's story was special. Just that third chapter. It's if it wasn't for the third chapter, it would probably just be A tier. But it's just that good, in my opinion, the third chapter, that I really liked this story a lot. Castti, originally, I didn't really like her character that much. I thought she was kind of boring. But once she started being more developed, we get to learn more of her story. Her backstory is probably the most interesting of any of them. And also she gets that mother hen vibe that's nice. Like, she's like always helping someone, extending a helping hand to those in need. Like, she's always there for other people, and it's fun. Originally, I thought Castti was boring, but by the end, I actually really liked her character, and I kind of regret putting her so low on my ranking of the characters by personality and stuff. But, Castti is awesome. Her story's awesome. It's mostly that third chapter that really does a great job. And since it's my favorite chapter in the game, I put her in S+ tier. Otherwise, if I didn't love that chapter so much, A or S tier for Castti. So that's a little bit interesting. Alright, apparently we're just getting most of my favorite chapters in a row. So next we're going to go with Temenos, which is my favorite story in the whole game. I love Temenos so much. He is my favorite character in this game. Partitio is my second favorite, or Ochette, one of those two. But Temenos is my favorite character. He's just hilarious. The first chapter, I will say, is pretty mid. And the fourth chapter is pretty mid. And that's the thing about the S+ tier ones. I feel like the S ones are just the ones that are just straight up solid, but not anything like way too inventive. And then the S+ tier ones are the ones where, there's some misses, but there's such good highs. And here, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are just so good. I absolutely love these chapters. The first chapter is nice. It introduces us. But Chapter 2 really does all the payoff for Chapter 1 with, the whole mystery. So, there's that mystery. And you get introduced to Crick, though. And you get to play as one of the gods, which is nice. So, Chapter 1 really is pretty good. Chapter 1's a very solid chapter. And then Chapter 2 just builds on that. You get to solve the whole mystery of the Pontiff. And you get to figure out who this Vados the Architect guy is. And how he's, it was really interesting how he's, killing them in the order of, killing one of each of the gods or whatever. And then it really just gets amazing. Temenos Chapter 3 is my second or third favorite chapter in the game. It's so good. The Fell Sun Ruins part isn't quite as good in my opinion. It was still very good. We get to learn more about the motto of the Moonshade Order, whatever. That's crazy. That is my favorite line in the game. The surrender yourself unto silent dusk and the night, whatever, night shall fall, something fading, memory. I don't know. I should memorize that. But That is such a awesome, just that whole line is just literally so bad. It's epic. And then yeah, you get that whole Felsen Ruins, and that really Felsen Ruin part kind of really sets up the final chapter. And Temenos also, like, he doesn't give the main character vibe. Like, Hikari gives main character vibes because he's like, the power of friendship. But here, Temenos is, like, really the main character, I feel like, because his story definitely fits the most with the final chapter. Some of the other ones really do as well, like Ochette and Osvald have the shadow and stuff. But here, Temenos really is kind of the main character of this game. Also, yeah, so that whole Felsen Ruins really sets up the finale. It's really cool. Again, it's always cool when there's, like, that one religion and then there's people up against it. It's interesting. And then, of course, the other part of Chapter 3. Oh my gosh. It's so good. Oh my gosh, I was so mad. I was yelling at the screen because Crick was my favorite character. Okay, I said Temenos was my favorite character. Crick was probably my favorite character. Like, out of the Travelers, Temenos, but I loved Crick. And when he died and it just flashed back all the awesome things he said. Dude, I literally cried, bro. Crick was my man. He was my man. And these guys had, like, the best, like, buddy cop vibe. So I was just so mad that freaking Caldina let him die. And it's just so stupid. It's so messed up. And then you get to solve the rest of the mystery. And then you move on to Chapter 4, which is my least favorite fourth chapter. Other than the fact it's kind of boring. Other than the fact you're beating up the person who, like, killed Crick. Like, Caldina is not interesting. That's not what matters. It's the twists that mattered to me. That Caldina was the villain. I would say the biggest weakness of this is the fourth chapter. You basically just go kill Caldina and there's nothing else to it. However, I think that Chapter 3 was just that good, kind of similar with Castti, although I think that I liked his other chapters more. Temenos Chapter 2, I love that one as well. But, yeah, Crick was just so fun. Temenos was so fun. You get to play as the gods, you get to solve mysteries like Sean Spencer, Psych style. It's awesome. You get the buddy cop vibe, and it's just, I loved it so much. I will say, yeah, the final chapter was kind of weak, but his real final chapter is the final chapter because the whole final chapter, it just really revolves around him. Like, the main, like, mint or whatever was, like, part of Temenos' chapter, the Moonshade Order, all that. Temenos is, I would say his fourth chapter is more like not the final. I think his final chapter is really like a fifth Temenos chapter, honestly. So I don't really even care that Temenos didn't really have the best final chapter. Honestly, Temenos was just my favorite story in the game. Alright, let's move on to Osvald. I could talk about Temenos for hours, but Osvald I'm going to put in A tier. And here's the problem. Osvald is awesome. His story is awesome. His backstory is awesome. Revenge, it's all nice. The problem is, for me, is some of the chapters are amazing, and then some of them are just bad. Like, whereas, like, Castti and Temenos, like, their other chapters are weaker, but they're still good. Or, like, Ochette, who's, like, solid the whole way through, but nothing way too crazy. Osvald has amazing highs and just some boring chapters. Chapter 3, one of the weakest chapters in the game of Osvald. You just go back to his town. You fight two bosses, which is probably the best part of the chapter. You fight two bosses, and then you, like, leave. All basically you just figure out where Harvey is. Not really much going on in that chapter. You do get introduced to his assistant, but I don't know. It wasn't enough to warrant a whole chapter, in my opinion. I feel like it could have just been part of Chapter 4, but anyway, I digress. And then, yeah, that's fine. And then Chapter 1 and 2 also just felt like one chapter. Like, Chapter 2 was super short. I really liked it. It just, Chapter 1 through 3 were not anything way too special, in my opinion. Yes, breaking out of prison was fun. I thought Osvald was going to be my favorite story because he's, like, framed for murder. I thought it was going to be more interesting, but his stay in prison and his escape weren't too interesting. I liked Emerald's little, like, sacrifice to get Osvald off the island, going down in flames. But other than that, Chapter 1 and 2 were just kind of mid for, like, escaping prison or whatever. Throné's first chapter did a much better job of that, like, escape vibe. Let's see here. I did really love this, though. Yeah, so 1 through 3 were just fine. Nothing too crazy. It was, like, cool. Got to see some flashbacks. But it wasn't anything, like, too special for me. So so far I'd have it in B tier. Nothing crazy. And then chapter 5, I'm going to go back to 4 in a second. Chapter 5 is one of the better payoff type finales, since the whole point of his story is to kill Harvey. But it's still just killing a guy, and it isn't as interesting. Like, I still didn't have as much fun with it as like Ochette's final chapter, but again, it was a good vibe. And then I also I know Osvald, I know he wanted to give his daughter some time, but he also just had such a like bittersweet finale that I did not like. I was hoping the final chapter would like, at the epilogue, like it would finish it off and then we'd see him like go talk to his daughter or whatever. The epilogue was a little boring. It's just going and seeing Agnea at a show, which I think is kind of sad. But anyway, maybe I missed her sitting in the audience or something. I could have totally done that. But anyway, I don't love the finale too much. And the first 3 chapters, I mean, the finale does have good payoff. The whole One True Magic, I like that the EX skill really is part of the story, whereas most of the other ones, it isn't. It's just like, oh, now you have this. Now you have Share SP. Nice. Now you have Heavenly Shine. Nice. None of them were like really cool, except for One True Magic was really part of the story, and that was awesome. That whole One True Magic thing was cool. The final chapter was nice. I'd probably give the final chapter like an A tier and the first 3 chapters a B tier. However, the 4th chapter is my second favorite chapter in the game. And yeah, he's mediocre in a lot of the other, like the story as a whole is very good. But yeah, there's some very dull moments, like some more boring ones. But chapter 4, oh my gosh, second best chapter in the game. So good. You get to see all of Harvey's studies, all the One True Magic stuff. You get to hear all these nerding, like this talking, nerding out. Awesome stuff going on there. You get this whole epic story about the wife, and then you get the huge plot twist that his daughter's still alive. I didn't see that coming. I usually see Octopath Traveler twists coming. I didn't see this one coming. I also didn't see Castti's, or I totally saw Crick's death coming. Sadly, I was so mad. I put the game down for like 5 minutes before I could pick it back up. But yeah, Osvald here, just great plot twist, really cool. The One True Magic, the research, the flashbacks of his wife and daughter are all so good in chapter 4. I think I might have cried in this chapter. I can't remember. It was a really good chapter, second favorite in the game. I loved this chapter so much, and that really is what put Osvald not in last, because his chapter 4 was so good. And his story as a whole is fantastic. His chapter 4 is fantastic. But again, 1 through 3 are mid. 5 is kind of good, but could be better. So that's my feeling about Osvald. All right, let's move on to my man, Partitio. At first, I was like, another merchant. Okay, it'll be like Tressa, which Tressa was fine, but kind of boring. Let's just say Partitio stepped it up, amped it up so much. The fact that his whole point is he wants to save the world from poverty. I'm sorry, but anyone who wants to save the world from poverty is like the coolest person ever. In terms of the end goal, Partitio is my favorite end goal. Like, okay, saving an island, fine. Being a superstar, fine. Getting freedom, fine. Saving a town, fine. Figure out a mystery, fine. Saving a different town from rain, fine. Killing a dude, fine. But saving the world from poverty, that is interesting. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I know some things did it. Like, I know, like, I'm playing Tales Symphonia right now, and the regeneration of the world or whatever. But, like, this is just, he uses business to just, it's so fun to get this story of just, like, a business guy going around in an RPG. It's super fun. I will say, some of his chapters, oh my gosh, not these notifications. Please tell me there's not going to be, like, 50 of them this time. Yes, am I free? I turned off notifications, but they're still on for some reason. His first chapter is one of my favorite in the game. My favorite first chapter, I think maybe Hikari's is better. Hikari or his. I think his favorite. I think my favorite first chapter is going to be Partitio's. You just get all of this evolution of a town over time. It's so cool. And you get introduced to Rock. You get introduced to his dad. You see all of these things happen. Foundation of where Partitio's become like a merchant, all this stuff. Amazing chapter 1. Obviously, it's not anything like insane. It's just a building of a town. But again, it's just such a fun thing to see. And then the second chapter is awesome. You get to see how he's going to save the world from poverty by giving everyone the steam engine. It's awesome that we get a little bit of like steampunk vibe here. Not really, but like industrial age vibe here. Like this is definitely a more like fleshed out world, like more advanced than Octopath 1. And you just get this fun story of Partitio getting the steam engine as like, I'll pay $1 billion. Like Partitio, I wish everyone in this world had the motivation of Partitio. And then, especially me, like I need that. But yeah, Partitio, awesome. Like first 2 chapters, awesome. I will say chapter 3 is not the best. As much like a department store, it's fun. Making up a department store so that he can get enough money to go to Rock Island. Yes, it's still good. I still like the chapter. It is one of the weakest chapters in the game, in my opinion, but it's still a really good one. The fact that you're making a department store in an RPG, though, is pretty fun. I like that vibe. And also, yeah, and that part where like he goes back to everyone and it's playing Partitio's theme, which is literally one of my favorite songs now. Partitio's theme is such a vibe. There's this awesome cover, like Bad Hairline Productions on YouTube. It's so good. And that name is even better. But like, dude, Partitio's theme, honestly, that might be why it's an S+ tier. I love that song. It's like the most nostalgic song ever for me, like right after the Sticker Star theme. But I don't know why that's so nostalgic for me. But anyway, I digress. Partitio is just so fun. Like saving the world from poverty, and his theme is so good. And then he gets to chapter 4 where he does it. He gets the $1 billion. He goes to Rock, and Rock is like, what? And then like he saves everyone from poverty by getting the steam engine, the Partitio Rock company. It's just so cool. A lot of people are like, oh, this is like the worst chapter or like bottom tier with Agnea or whatever. But like, I mean, I still don't think Agnea is bad or anything, but like Partitio, I think that this was one of the most unique chapters in the game, honestly. Like, what other game are you making a department store and saving the world from poverty via the steam engine? If there is one, please tell me because I want to play it very badly. Partitio is just my man. He's so good. I love his chapter. I think that I like Temenos and Castti a little bit better. I'm going to put Partitio above Castti. I'm putting Partitio above Castti. Not above Temenos, because he's basically the main character or whatever. And yeah, Partitio probably has the least plot relevance in the final chapter. But it's just so fun. I feel like he made the most impact in the world as well. Like, he's saving the world. Like, he's the one who's really saved the world. Of course, the final chapter, but like, yeah, saved an island, yeah, saved some people, but nothing was, like, saving a couple towns is nice, but saving the whole world from being impoverished, I don't know how to say that word, but anyway, I totally said that wrong, but I just love Partitio. It's such a fun chapter, and so many people don't really love it, and I get it. It's not, like, crazy, but it's just awesome. I love it. Partitio is amazing. Let's move on to Agnea. I'm going to go with the crowd and just say she's the worst, but still A tier. I wasn't going to have any B's or C's. If Osvald didn't pull it off in chapter 4, I would have put him in B, but Agnea's first chapter does an amazing job. I kind of teared up a little bit. Like, her farewell, this town just is amazing. Such good people at this town. They do a great, like, they're so nice and all this stuff. And I will say, one of the reasons why it's my least favorite chapter is because as much as Agnea is so nice, you don't have to dance every time you see someone. Like, she just kind of got annoying at a point. She's such a nice person and stuff, and she's fun, but every time you see someone, you don't need to dance for them, Agnea. That's kind of one of the reasons that, and she's kind of full of herself, I feel like. Even though, like, we're not supposed to feel like she is, she kind of seems like she is. And she's trying to bring smiles to everyone's faces, but I also feel like she's, like, trying to elevate herself above other people. I know that's probably not the vibe everyone gets, but that kind of annoyed me. That's one reason it's in last. But yeah, chapter 1 is amazing. But again, this kind of falls for the same thing as Osvald. There are 2 boring chapters here. And I think Agnea's third chapter, third chapter, yes. Boring. Just literal boring. Like, chapter 1 through 3 in Osvald had a point. So chapter 3, we just meet some people for no point. Like, the only reason chapter 3 even really needed to happen was because that one lady died in the final chapter to summon V-Day or whatever. But literally anybody could have died there. Like, yes, we get some extra characters with Giselle's traveling troupe, but they barely added anything to the final chapter, in my opinion. They were kind of just there. Like, I feel like there could have been, after Agnea's chapter 2, which was honestly an amazing chapter, in my opinion. Chapter 3 was just boring. Chapter 4 was okay. Like, she was training a protege, kind of like how her mom trained, Dulcinea. Like, chapter 4 was good, but it was still one of the weaker chapters, in my opinion. It wasn't anything crazy. It was still fine. Chapter 3 and 4 really lowered Agnea a bit for me. Chapter 1 is kind of boring, other than the fact that she, like, just has such a support system behind her. That's really cool. And when you really have that support system behind you, you really can go out and achieve your dreams, right? This is honestly the most personal story for me, which is weird because, like, I put it in last. But if I could choose one thing to be in my life, it would be, like, a superstar musician. Like, maybe, like, a one-hit or three-hit wonder. I don't want to be, like, followed around, like, paparazzi on the streets. But, like, that's what I want to do. I want to perform for people. So I get Agnea, and I get that she wants to perform for everyone. She is a bit full of herself, which is kind of annoying. But anyway, I really do relate to Agnea. But, like, chapter 1, 3, and 4 didn't really feel that relatable. They were just kind of boring. And then chapter 5 was a good final chapter, but it was one of I liked it better than most of the final chapters. It was fun. Dulcinea getting the people, like when she was on the floor and she's like, I can't do this anymore. And then everyone starts cheering Agnea. I kind of teared up there. I love when that happens. But like, then the bodyguard beats up that one guy from chapter 2. It's all fun, but all those aren't that, like, even chapter 5 is just kind of good. It's not anything crazy. I will say, chapter 2 of Agnea's story is why I kept it in A tier instead of B tier. Chapter 2 was so relatable. I understand, like, I also play the piano, so I totally related to that other guy. The whole theater thing, the corrupt theater, there's always corrupt theater directors, you know, like, I've met some of the corrupt theater directors and stuff, so that was kind of relatable, like, having people, like, trash your playing, your dancing and stuff. I get all that. Chapter 2 is very relatable for me. I love that chapter. And that city is just one of the most interesting in the game. But honestly, nothing way too special here. It's just, yeah, it's a fun chapter. It's just the same vibe as Tressa. Like, I'm so glad it's in the game. I'm glad not everything was dark and dreary. But, like, I need Agnea. I need Tressa to be in the game. Like, they're both fun. They both should be there. But not my favorite. It's the most relatable one for me, but even still, it's just the build-up is just performing on stage. Like, it's not anything too crazy, but it's fun. It's relatable. I loved chapter 2 a lot. Yeah, it's good. Not anything too crazy. Yeah, solid chapter. Well done. I liked it better than Tressa's, so yeah, it probably like low A tier though. Like, it's close to being a B tier for me, but chapter 2, and if it wasn't so relatable, I'd put it in B, but yeah. Alright, let's move on to Throné, which I'm going to put in S right above Ochette. Even, like, Ochette, yeah, it was solid all the way through. Throné was just more so. There was never a boring moment. I think, if I had to say, I think chapter 3 is my least favorite of the 4 chapters. It's 4 chapters, right? Yeah. And I honestly did not know there were 4 chapters when I went into this. I was like, wait, there's more? Because usually it's, well, chapter 1, and then there's 2 split ones. Like, so I thought that was just the 5. And I was like, that ended weirdly. Okay, and now she takes off her neck thing, and then she's done. Nice. Like, I was like, okay, we're done. Nice, that was a good story. Like, chapter 3 was fine. Not too climactic or anything, not too crazy, right? Probably would have put it in A tier. at that point. I mean, it's really... No, I would have kept it in S tier, but probably below Ochette. It's just really solid. I mean, Chapter 1 is so good. Like, they're just pawns in this game. Okay, I would not have put it below Ochette. Never mind. They're all just pawns in this game. It's very interesting getting to see that part. It's so good. And then the mother side of Chapter 2 was really cool. The father side wasn't as cool in my opinion, but it's still fun. Like, Chapter 1 and 2 are awesome. Chapter 3, I would say, is the low point here. Even though she kills mother and father, like I said, it's just always the ones where they just go beat someone up. It's not really the most interesting thing for me. It's still a good climax, but it's not going to be my favorite. But, like, some of those plot twists in Chapter 3 are awesome. And then you get to Chapter 4, which I didn't even know was going to exist. And there's a whole hidden town. There's this whole thing, and then all of a sudden there's this huge plot twist. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 plot twist. I'm like, what is happening here? It was awesome. And it kind of did really play into the final chapter. All of Throné's stories, I literally, in my chapter ranking, spoilers, they're all in one place. Like Ochette's, they're all solid. But Throné's whole chapter is just like right at the top of S tier for me. Nothing is like, none of her chapters are like as good as these chapters in my opinion. And like, objectively they might be better. I just resonated more with the S plus ones, but like they're all fantastic, top S tier for me. But it just, I know they were very well done, but they just weren't personally my favorite and it was a little too dark at sometimes, because like Primrose's chapter, it's dark, but it only really affected her. It was all personal, like it's just her, right? And I didn't really mind, because I didn't really like Primrose, so if bad things were happening to her, I didn't really care, like, no offense. But I really did care about Throné, and it was so sad to just see all these kids, like, enslaved to become murderers and stuff. I was like, this is a little bit too much for me, like, my brain to handle. This is tugging my heartstrings the wrong way, so I was just like, oh boy, this is rough. But other than that, it was an amazing chapter. Like, it was a lot to take in, but fantastic. Not S plus tier for me because it just wasn't personally my favorite, but objectively this is one of the best stories in the game. It's really very just that good. There's a lot of cool plot twists with this organization, and yeah, it's really cool. All right, gave me Hunger Games vibe, kind of something like that. All right, let's move on to Hikari, which gives the most main character vibes of more than a lot of main characters give main character vibes. I'm putting him top of A tier. At first, I literally, after playing his chapter 1 and 2, I was like, this man going to be an S plus or S tier. And then chapter 3 and 4 kind of just happened. They were just kind of mid. Like, the definition of mid. So chapter 1 is this epic. The stakes were super high. It was like Haunted chapter 4, but chapter 1 of Hikari. Get all these, like, characters are controlling these friends and stuff. Then by the end, everything's, like, burnt down. It's one of my favorite chapters in the game. It's crazy. It's awesome. The brother takes over, and you're just like, what just happened? I was, like, so sad because all these people that Hikari was talking to at the beginning of the chapter are just dying all around you, burning down in flames. It's an amazing chapter. And then Hikari chapter 2 just takes like Olbrich chapter 2 from the first game and elevates it. It makes it more interesting, more dark, betting and all this stuff. And it's really cool getting the eagle guy or whatever, and him being evil, which was very, like, evil or whatever. Yeah, evil. Interesting. That was very interesting in the final chapter. But yeah, so the first two chapters were amazing. Like, I thought he was determined. S plus tier. So good, those two chapters. Especially chapter 1. And then we got chapters 3 and 4. 3 was second, third, maybe fourth least favorite chapter in the game. The most interesting part is that your friend beheads that one dude and brings in his head. Like, you're just stopping a weapons shipment, which, I get it. This should be part of it. Like, I'm not going to be here saying, like, it shouldn't have existed, like I thought about Agnea's chapter 3. But I'm not going to be here defending that it's, like, really good or anything. It's just, it was really just the most mid you could get. Yeah. Didn't really like chapter 3 that much. It was a little bit interesting, but it was fine. And then chapter 4 is better. I will give it that. I don't know. Rai Mei or whatever wasn't the most interesting. There were some good flashbacks here. Good flashbacks. But I feel like those flashbacks honestly could have even been part of Chapter 5 at this point. Like, I don't know. Chapter 4 was just kind of mid. I mean, you get like thrown in a dungeon, but then you instantly escape. Anytime you get thrown in a dungeon and you escape within like 2 seconds, I'm just like, why did that even happen? Like, some dungeon breakouts are awesome, like in Dragon Quest XI, that was really cool, or like, what are some other ones? Tales of Vesperia, it's cool because you get introduced to like Raven. But here it's just like, get thrown in a dungeon. Oh, and then you're out in 2 seconds. Yay! Why did that happen? Like, I could have just broken in, and I don't know. But anyway, we get some cool plot here. We realize we get more of how Hikari is being taken over by the Shadow or whatever. And that's interesting. We get more of the Shadow here. Mostly, I would say, like, all of them have a little bit of that, like, Shadow thing, except for Partitio and Agnea. Partitio doesn't really play that much into the final chapter, I guess. But, I mean, he gets you the boat and stuff. And Agnea plays a part in the epilogue. But anyway. But yeah, you get, and I think it's cool that he goes from like Shadow's Hold to Light's Radiance. I still want to know if that actually changes any like damage or anything. It should, but I don't know. And I really love the final chapter too. It's just, the payoff is all nice, but I still think the first chapter is way more interesting. Like, the final chapter is nice. It was good. I still didn't like it as much as like Ochette's final chapter though. It had stakes, but it just didn't feel as big as it could have been. So yeah, chapter 3 was kind of bad. 4 had some good flashbacks, but it didn't even really need to exist. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that character Rai Mei didn't bring that much to anything. That might just be me. I think just mostly built on the Shadow's Hold, like that could have really been done with anyone else, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Other people probably do like Hikari's chapter 4. I just wasn't a big fan. And then chapter 5 is good, but I feel like the stakes could have been a little more grand for the fact that just chapter 1 was so epic. So, just a rundown. A tier are the ones that are like, yes, there's some good moments here, but there's just so many weaker chapters. Thank heavens. B tier would have been like, if Agnea didn't have a chapter 2 that was really good, Osvald didn't have a really good chapter 4. I can't really see Hikari being in B tier. So like, you could argue that this could also be my tier list, but I just decided to give him some grace here. And then S tier, yeah, very solid chapters, but not personal favorites or anything. And then S plus are just, I love those chapters so much. Thank you guys all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and check out some other videos on the channel, Octopath 1 and 2, all over my channel, because, I don't know, I've just kind of been in this mood right now. I've just been kind of ranking everything from these games. Kind of fun. Check out our website, rpgrank.com. Check out some merch in the description. That would help a lot. Of course, please put your ranking down below, because I want to hear opinions, because some people are like, oh, Partitio's chapter is worse. And some people are like, by far the best chapter. Some people are like, I love Throné. And some people are like, Throné's too dark. Or some people are like, I love Agnea. It's relatable. And some people are like, Agnea's trash. Or like, all this stuff. I just want to know your opinion. Or some people say Osvald is the best thing, one of the best stories I've ever heard in an RPG. And then I just kind of put it in like second to last. So just let me know what you think about these characters. Or some people just like hate Castti. They're like, it's the worst in the game. And I was like, really? So I really just want to know your opinions down below, because I feel like people's opinion on Octopath 1 was a lot more unanimous in which chapters they liked better. Like, but here I feel like it's just all over the place. So let me know down below. Thank you guys all for watching this video. Have a fantastic day. Peace out, RPG nerds.